Welcome to Diverse Orange, our conversations on Tuesdays afternoons with folks about diversity in Central Florida. And I have with me as our guest, Paula Wyatt. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you, Terry.
So Paula, you are a born and bred Floridian. Everyone has a heritage. And what would you say your heritage is?
So I have a funny story, Terry. When I grew up in Tampa and I moved to Orlando in college, right after college, which is an unimportant number of years ago. And I asked my grandmother when I was like around seventh grade, perhaps, and I noticed different cultures and, I had some Indian American friends, some Asian friends, and there were a lot of Hispanic influence in Tampa, right? And so everyone had these cool sort of pockets of culture going on. And I asked my grandmother, what was our culture? And she's from Atlanta, super Southern, super regular lady. She said to me, honey, we're just regular. So I had to make my own culture. So I just took little bits of what I thought was cool over the years and dumped them in, and here you go.
Well, that's very definitely a majority culture kind of answer, just regular. But as I know that you have come to discover, and we have, that there is so much to America, and it's not just white culture or whatever that means. So have you traveled much?
I love to travel. I travel as much as humanly possible. My son and I have been to every continent except for Antarctica, and we are hoping to make it there this Christmas or next Christmas, perhaps. Love traveling. And one of the things I love about traveling internationally, when you're from, typically when you meet someone internationally and you clarify where you're from, where you're from, and you typically would say the States or the US or whatever the nomenclature is there for that area. But when you live in Orlando, you bypass the country, you bypass the state, you get right to the city. You say Orlando, and I've never said Orlando anywhere in the world and not had somebody immediately recognize it and smile and maybe even say something about Disneyland. But it's a happy place. And as much as we are so much more than just Mr. Mouse, it is nice to have that recognition and to be associated with such a happy place.
So what have you found to be, how you didn't grow up in Central Florida, but you are here now. Why are you here?
I moved, again, an unimportant number of years ago, right after college, with my fiance at the time, and we got married, we had a baby, I started a business. And so all of my adult life, I've been in Orlando. And I think that's why I feel it's more home, because basically everything awesome that's ever happened to me here. So I love it. And one of the first things I recognized about Orlando was, and maybe it was just being like a 25-year-old girl, but everybody was nice to me and everybody was friendly. And I made so many friends. And I think the fact that so many people aren't really from here, there's like that, I don't want to say transient because that feels negative, but there's that energy of people wanting to make friends and being open to relationships and friendships and having fun, right? It's the hospitality capital of the world. So that's one of the first things I noticed about Orlando and Central Florida. And I see it still today.
So what in your travels in the US or internationally has been the biggest surprise or difference in a culture that you've confronted?
I have a good one. I was in New Zealand, and when you're in New Zealand, everything, when you ask how far something is, they say it's a 3-day walk or a 2-day walk or a 10-hour walk. Everything's walking, right? So I'm on a hike with a guide, and he's maybe he's 19 or 20 or whatever. And we're on a hike with him. And for quite a while we were talking. It was the first time I realized, when we were talking about history and different countries and being around the world, and he'd been everywhere. And it was the first time it occurred to me that our version of history as Americans just might not be the only version. And it would just hit me that, well, what do you mean? Because I was taught all of these things in school, and of course they're accurate and correct and not tinged. That's what it was in the book, right? And it just opened my eyes, and just things that happened in New Zealand around the same time, like the Wright brothers and the internal combustion engine. We had a very detailed conversation and compared notes. And it turns out that if there are 197 countries in the world, or 196, whatever the number is, depending on who you ask, that there could very well be that many versions of history. It was a real eye opener for me.
Yes, I recall when I first moved to Orlando, I took a trip to Brazil and had an air pass and went around to 13 cities over 1 million. And at the time, Orlando was like 500,000. And, we have to Manaus, 1,000 miles up the Amazon, where Caruso had sung 100 years ago. And 100 years ago, there was culture, and it was amazing to me. Like, oh yeah, Orlando's kind of like 100 years ago, there was nothing here. So that was interesting.
It is interesting.
So what's on your bucket list that you haven't done?
Yeah, so I have a funny bucket list. I actually have a reverse bucket list because cool things happen so quickly in my life, especially the last 10 years or so. I don't have time to like look forward to them. They just sort of happen. So I put them on the bucket list and then I check them off. I had an opportunity about 5 years ago to work with an international humanitarian organization, and we lobbied Congress in support of international humanitarian rights. And it was a weekend-long activity, and that wasn't on my bucket list. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I put it on my bucket list, checked it off. But I would say, and anything that would be on this list, it's not there for very long because I'm super proactive about things, So I would say the thing I'm working on back to the trip to Antarctica, because that's pretty big. You have to go in the winter, which is their summer's our winter, obviously below the equator. And there's only about a month or so a year that you can actually go. So we'll be flying to Argentina, and then we're going to take a cruise across Tierra del Fuego to Antarctica. You just touch it, and you get back on the boat and you check it off your list. So I would say that's what I get. That would be on my list, top of list.
Wow. Well, one of the things that I know you are involved with in Orlando and about multiculturalness is FusionFest. Tell us briefly about your role there.
Oh, I love FusionFest, and so happy to my FusionFest family for including me. Thank you guys so much for all of that. It's and it's right. It's such a big thing now. It started out as a big thing, and it just keeps getting bigger. So I'm the fashion curator. Or I might have another cool title, but that's essentially what I do. So I produce, and we have a lot of volunteers and a lot of help, and it's such a big event. It's such a great time. It's how I want to always spend my Thanksgiving weekends for sure. So the fashion show, we have two parts. We have you can be part of the fashion show as a heritage participant, meaning that you want to showcase a design or an outfit. It doesn't have to be designed, an outfit from your culture. Or you can enter our design competition, which comes with $1,000 prize for the winner. And this is a original piece that is created specifically for FusionFest, infusing two of the cultural regions that are identified. So I recruit all of the members for the show, and we produce 8 shows over the 2-day period. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of fun, and we don't know if it's going to be freezing or hot, but we plan for both. And I think we've had really good weather all the years so far, and I'm really looking forward to it this year. And even last year with COVID, we were a little weak on some of our, not everybody was into it, but man, we did it, right, Terry? We did it. It worked, and we masked and spaced, and we washed our hands, and we didn't touch pens, and we got through it. And so I'm excited for this year, right? So
if I've got some lederhosen that reflects some of my German heritage, how would I participate?
So you go to fusionfest.org, click on fashion, and you can register there to participate. We have a really easy to follow, super intuitive online form, and you'll pick there for this particular one, since you've not designed your Lozen, how am I saying it?
Lederhosen.
Thank you. Since you've not designed that, unless you're a lederhosen designer in your spare time, since you haven't designed that, you would just click heritage. And then that means that you would be included in the heritage show. And then that's all you have to do. And then as people register, we do bi-weekly Zoom calls as we get closer to help people with their questions. And then basically you show up for the weekend, and I do scheduled in the different shows. And we have a really good time, and we share the stage, or have always in the past shared it with spoken word. And if you haven't had an opportunity to Not speaking to you, Terry, because I know you have, but anybody listening, if you haven't had an opportunity to check out spoken word, you can check it out around town. There's just a lot of different places to check it out, but at FusionFest, it's really great. You get some of the best of the best.
Super. Well, I outgrew my lederhosen many years ago, so I guess I won't be walking down the catwalk with you. But thank you for joining us today. This is Paula Wyatt. And for those of you watching, we do this every Tuesday at 1:30. Also on Thursdays at 1:30, you do a Playfully Orange interview with someone about arts and culture in our community. A couple other events coming up this week. Tonight, Tuesday at 7 o'clock is our FusionFest virtual watch party. We'll be seeing a couple of the short films that are put together for FusionFest. And one of them is about Terry Olson, the other one about Kyle Steele tonight. So that'll be fun, and we'll have the subjects of the films and filmmakers on and have some conversation, and you can ask questions and things like that. So that's Tuesday tonight at 7, and tomorrow, Wednesday, the 14th of July, is our monthly Diversitastic Dining Experience, and we're going to the exotic place of Texas for this one, for the Texas-style barbecue at Cecil's. We have a renowned cowboy poet, and we have Amy Allen teaching and demonstrating some line dancing. So those are things coming up. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next week or at one of those events. Thank you.